assess the market to understand the agriculture globally and which countries they have a competitive advantage, which commodities locally we need to focus on as SALIC, and we end up by a list of 12 strategic commodities that represent the need for Saudi Arabia. From 2020 to 2022, most of you witnessed Corona. And that pandemic shows a lot of weaknesses and a lot of gaps in agri-food. But alhamdulillah, SALIC demonstrate a strong capability during that time by ensuring continuity of food supplies to Saudi Arabia, as well as redefining and aligning our local strategy with the national priorities raised from that pandemic, which mainly we were defining that we need to achieve the global champion mandate as a food security leader, as well as enabling and empowering the local agri-food sector locally. 2023 to 2024, SALIC expanded our portfolio to cover 12 strategic commodities instead of 12 commodities that were defined at the early stage, as well as completing and activating our local mandate in parallel with continuing our international investment to cover and serve SALIC mandate globally. 2025 to 2030, SALIC will mainly focus on enhancing our asset that we already have it since establishment until today, whether globally or locally, as well as integrating these assets from international to local markets. And definitely, as you all know, that we announced our acquisition or raising our shares in Olam from 35% to 80%, as well as establishing and start operating our newly established portfolio companies, which is SABIL, whose mainly will focus on operating the strategic reserve that we will have it. Our mandate internationally and locally, focusing on mainly serving the food security purpose of Saudi Arabia. From international side, we will invest in the origins, who they represent the strategic commodities for Saudi Arabia, as well as diversifying our investments from one region to another region to ensure that we are strengthening our position as a food security leader. Also securing the food security or the food supply chain. Instead of buying the commodities, we will invest in this supply chain to ensure that we have a control in these critical value chain in our commodities. And definitely the logistic, which shows a critical situation for SALIC after pandemic, we need to step in that area as well. For the local side, SALIC is mainly focusing on enabling the local agri-food sector to increase their production. Therefore, SALIC will step in the upstream operations of the commodities that SALIC is focusing on, as well as operating the strategic silos that become under SALIC management. This is why we establish our new portfolio company, SABIL. Also enabling the value chain for the commodities locally by our international expertise. And definitely the Arctic, it is a very critical for everyone. So SALIC will drive this one to ensure adopting innovation and the new technologies that will serve to enable the local agri-food sector. Today, SALIC stands as a cornerstone of Saudi food readiness. And as you can see here, our international portfolio and local portfolio to ensure that we are on the top of covering the strategic commodities of Saudi Arabia. This map, it shows our internationals locally and globally covering the 5 continents in 7 countries to ensure that we are on top of all our critical commodities. Therefore, SALIC, in every continent, we are a partner, and in every commodity, we have an impact. These are the 16 strategic commodities under SALIC mandate, whether locally or internationally, and we group these 16 commodities into 4 categories: grains, animal protein, fruits and vegetables, and diversified products. SALIC numbers: from these 12 strategic investments during the past 5 years, SALIC increased 5 times in our asset under management to reach to around 27 billion riyal. 33% increase in our compound annual growth rate of net profit, as well as around 30% increase in compound annual growth rate in revenue. These 12 commodities today serve 5.5 million tons of the strategic commodities supplied to the kingdom during the past 5 years, and 20% of the wheat consumption in 2024 in Saudi Arabia supplied by SALIC, and 2024 in Saudi Arabia supplied by SALIC. And today, more than 20 million tons of the strategic commodities covered by SALIC international and local investments. In the local side, we, through our global presence, we attract our portfolio companies to have their regional offices in KSA, such as LT Food, BRF, and launching a Ra'i project through our investment in Nadic, which it will produce around 1 million head of sheep and goats to the Saudi market.